artist.
Yep.
Mhm. Every sporting event.
Still played every sporting
Mhm.
event.
Other people, be quiet. Other people, be quiet.
Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. My friends and I get together, we share a few issues with each other, then we talk about those issues. Joined by my friends Russ and Emmanuel. Gentlemen, how are you doing this weekend? And where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'll go. I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. And you can find me a multitude of places on the internet, not the least of which is blacksuperherofan.com. You can also find me on comiccreatorsofcolor.com. You can find me on my personal site, walrus.org, WALLRUSS.org. You can also find me on Twitter at Walrus, that's at WALLRUSS. And you can also find me here in this podcast and on cornercomics.net.
Emmanuel?
Nice. I'm feeling quite congenial at the moment. You can find me on the gram at EM_MAN_YOU. Take a breath. And then underscore EL, Emmanuel. You can also find me at EmmanuelTheStory.com. Also, cornercomics.net. See you there. I don't know why I'm doing the robot, but
I was going to say, I was waiting for you, Matt, to put the word obsequious into your introduction.
Oh, yeah, I tweeted about Obsequious.
It's a great word. I've been using it for a while. I like it.
Two different books from two separate genres that I've been reading this week. Both used obsequious. I was like, what the fuck? I've never even run across this word before now. And yeah, two separate novels used it. So, yeah, obsequious. Look it up.
Look it up. Look it up.
All right.
Pick it up.
So we got 6 issues this week, like we always do. I've got 2. Russ has got 2. Emmanuel's got 2. My 2 fall into sort of my own personal theme this week. So, Russ, you had mentioned, hey, have you read the new Thor comic? And I was like, no, I haven't caught up on it yet, but when I do, we'll talk about it. And then I came across this issue, Nexus War Thor, and realized that it was a tie-in for Fortnite, the video game. I was like, all right, well, so I got this we should definitely talk about, and then I found Mass Effect Foundation. It was a series that I was collecting for a while that ties into the Mass Effect universe. So Mass Effect Foundation number 2 is my second issue. What 2 books do you have, Russ?
I brought Hellions #1, the Marvel book. Of course, I brought it because some people are still not an X-Men fan. But Hellions, at least it be beginning, is telling the story of what if you are broken or evil and a mutant, should you be allowed to continue to exist and have a purpose? That's what I'm getting from it anyway. And this is Hellions #1. It came out this year. My next book is Genius #1. It looks like an Image and Top Cow working together. I also found it interesting that it was written at least partially by Mark Bernardin, who I'm kind of a fan of from Fat Man Beyond. And it's a story. I'll get into all that later. Emmanuel, what's your books?
all right. My first book is Bang #3. It is a Dark Horse comic. The current run is still printing, so it's the 2020. Also, my second comic is Catalyst Prime. We've reviewed prior comics to this. This is #7 because it's the 7 days story. And this is issue #7, the last issue, the culmination of events.
Yeah, I think we did issue 1. I don't remember what episode of Corner Comics that was, but we can throw that in the show notes if I can find it.
We did more than one. I did the first one, and then Emmanuel brought another one, and now he's bringing this one.
Oh, did we do, what was it, issue 1 and issue 3? And then now we're doing 7?
I believe
They
so.
have
Okay. So yeah, we've almost done. I think we've done more issues of Catalyst Prime than we have any other book, which is
Hmm.
interesting. So, all right. My first book, Nexus War Thor #1. Although it's going to be a standalone book, so I don't know why they gave it a number. Um, this is
Can't be number 7.
they should have just left it alone without a number. Just call it Nexus War Thor. Um, yeah. So this is the introduction, I guess, and how the Marvel characters end up in the Fortnite universe. So if you want to spend money in Fortnite and get you some superhero skins, um, this, I guess, supposedly is why you're able to do that. It gives some backstory as to how that happened, I guess. I was a little confused because it was written by Donny Cates, and he did tweet about this. He's actually proud about this story. So, um, yeah,
Hmm.
I was slightly disappointed at the just how brash this was for marketing. But yeah, what do you guys think about this one?
Emmanuel, care to go?
Okay, I will go. I did not like this story. It seems so obvious that it's promoting Fortnite. It's just, hey, if you like Marvel and you like Fortnite, join. No, no, and no. I'm not interested in Fortnite. The only interesting piece was in the beginning, the introduction when they were talking about Thor and how he's now the king. He's taking Odin's place in his relation with Galactus. That we already know, but I was hoping they would give more information, kind of go a different route. But this is not it. This is not. I was not entertained. It's really difficult for me to read a comic book and not be entertained. I was like, what is this? Just these characters, the Banana Man. I understand these are the skins you can have while
Banana
you
Man.
play as you play Fortnite, and the dances, yeah, they're fun to look at, but maybe it stems from my disdain and utter disgust and lack of interest in Fortnite. Maybe that has something to do with it. I may be a bit biased, but in playing Fortnite with various people, I just I can't get with it, and I can't get with this comic. It is not really forgivable. I would say it'd be forgivable if, or since it has the Marvel characters, since it has Thor and the rest. But no, no, and no.
How do you guys
The
feel
Avengers
about
shouldn't be here at all.
how do you feel, Emmanuel? How do you feel about the art though?
The art was good. To its
Right?
saving grace, the art was good. But it's just the story. I can't get over the story.
Yeah. I was confused, and so like, before you go, Russ, I'm just gonna interject real quick. You actually get points for reading this book. So I go out, when I buy my Marvel books, I put them into my Marvel account. You get the little digital code. They give you points on your Marvel Insider account that you can use to unlock shit or whatever. So I'm in my little Marvel Insider account, like checking my points and seeing what comics I can buy, or like what new backgrounds I can unlock. And I'm like, oh, earn points for reading a Thor comic. This must be the Thor comic that Russ was talking about. No, but I got 1,000 Marvel points for reading this stupid book,
And it was free.
and it was free. Yeah. So
You get what you pay for.
Fortnite is free too. Okay, my turn.
yeah.
All right, so I'll take the
Yes.
baton. 90% of everything you said, Emmanuel, yes, and well said. Thank you. Now, there is a video that shows the Marvel heroes showing up in Fortnite,
Okay.
right? That's going around. It's entertaining to see. There's a part where Wolverine pops his claws and Banana Man pops banana claws. Right? He's still smiling. He goes flip, and his bananas pop up, and. And so here's the thing. It's a good looking comic,
Yeah.
right? And they did make an effort to make it mainstream. Like a lot of these crossovers, they phone it in. right? They get somebody who makes half as much as a writer and less than half as much as the art, and they just put something together, right? They actually made an effort here. Why? I don't know, but they did,
Yeah.
right? Because there's some quality to the art. There's visually, it looks good. There's some parts that are generic, but still, it's a good-looking book. That being said, if you're Thor and you're in the Fortnite universe, who can fuck with you? Right? That's like having Superman in the universe. Superman comes into Fortnite. Who's supposed to win against that? Right? Galactus comes into Fortnite. You're not supposed to win. So when Thor goes into Fortnite, this all starts off like a serious Thor book. It really does.
Yeah.
It starts off like a serious Thor book. It's written well. It looks good. And then all of a sudden he's in the Fortnite universe. And foolishness ensues. Right? And all of a sudden, as strong and powerful as he is, Superman level or beyond, Goku level perhaps, he can't take all these dudes out with his own Thor breath. They should just fall, right? I smash my hammer to the ground, Banana Man flies in the air and falls to the ground. Catman, whoever these guys are, there should be no book after this. If Thor pops into your universe and you have to fight him, your book is over.
Well, not only
And
that,
yet
he has to bring the other heroes into it.
Yeah, right? Like Thor couldn't do it by himself. And most of these other heroes could have done it by themselves either. So how you going to, you know how they have these crossovers like they have this game where the Justice League and who is Ryu and Ken, who's that, where they
Street Fighter.
Yes, Justice League, these superheroes, Street Fighter, right? And somehow Batman and Superman are the same strength level, right? Or we can go back to X-Men, the X-Men video game, right? Where somehow Colossus and Cyclops are at the same strength level, right? They just show their powers differently, right? I don't want to say it's a dumbing down as far as mentally, but it's a dumbing down as far as their power levels. Right? Somehow Thor has retained all his godly power and still can't defeat everybody and got to call the Avengers. This is a book you must never buy, but you never have to.
No.
You never have to because it is free and there is going to be a link in the show notes. So feel free to read this free book and join me and Emmanuel in our disdain. Go ahead, Matt. Finish it up. What you got to say?
And if you're a Marvel insider, you could get points for reading.
As well.
It still blows me away that because to put it in context, would you buy a physical book? You input the digital code, they give you 200 points. So this is 5 times a normal comic.
And you don't have to buy it.
No, you don't have to
It's
buy
as if they're paying you to read it. It's as if it's so bad they really, really want you to read it. I don't understand.
We made it pretty. We really took it seriously.
So anyway, my next issue, we'll move on from there. It was Mass Effect Foundation, issue number 2. The majority of the issues that are in the Mass Effect Foundation series are pretty standalone. There's a single character, the girl that's sort of a byline. So Raza shows up in multiple issues, and then at the end of the culmination of issue 13, it ties into one of the DLCs for Mass Effect 3. So this came out, I think, back in 2012 or 2013. After Mass Effect 3 had already been released. It was done by the writer of Mass Effect, one of the lead writers, Mac Walters. So this is a little bit different than my last book. This is actually an effort to give you more of the universe and tell a good story. What did you guys think?
Emmanuel?
I'll go. So what's the red alien's name? I forget his name.
Rex.
But he isn't Rex. He looks like a Rex. Honestly, I enjoyed that character. I enjoyed following along with the character. And it's not necessarily one of the characters that visually you'll see as the main character or the protagonist, the guy that you root for. But he's likable. I like he's an assassin, but yes, still he has like an interesting personality. The art was good at some points, but honestly, it wasn't all that great in my opinion. There's some panels that I think it kind of lacked definition, but overall, it was readable. It was an enjoyable comic. I don't have any background information about Mass Effect at all. So coming into this completely blind, I didn't know who the characters were, what their motives were, what they did, powers or abilities, expertise, any of that. And I was still entertained. Rex is a likable character. I don't know if following my history, he probably would die if I actually like him. But yeah, I at the end of this comic, I was entertained and it was pleasant. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Now, Emmanuel, you don't have any Mass Effect experience. I actually have some Mass Effect experience. I know what a Krogan is, right?
Yeah.
All right. So my perspective is a little different. I'll start with I thought this was a pretty good looking book. Is it perfect? No, but it's still pretty good looking. It's enjoyable to watch. Even the cover is nice and shiny. So I felt like I got my money's worth art wise. Right now, also I know some of the lore of Mass Effect, the Mass Effect universe, because I have played some of the games and not to fully. I don't have that kind of time, but I will ultimately. But I've always liked a good Krogan. Right, Krogans are like Klingon bulls to me.
Yeah, they're definitely, yeah.
Right,
Michael
so-
Dorn voiced one of the Krogans in the first video game too. So
So I found this. If you are a Mass Effect fan, I believe you should own this series. I think if you're a Mass Effect fan, this is written in the story because Mass Effect is really about story, right? It's got good gameplay, but the people who love Mass Effect are about the story of the game and how your character, you can actually take your character from the first game, put it in the second game, same guy, then put him in the third game. So you could really tell the story, and it's a lot of hours in these games, not even counting DLC. So you really put a lot of energy and time into these characters. Great games, by the way. I highly recommend them. And you can get the first one, especially for really cheap, like $5. So if you are a Mass Effect fan, I mean a fan, not just somebody who kind of likes it. If you're a fan, this is a buy. If you're not a Mass Effect fan, but you know of them, it could be either one, but I'll say read. Whether or not it's a read, if you don't know anything about Mass Effect, I got to leave that to you, Emmanuel. I enjoyed it. I am considering reading the continued series. Not that it's the greatest book of all time,
no.
but because I know the characters. It's like reading Archie. You know everybody in Archie. What is that silly Archie going to do now? Or what is Jughead going to eat? You know that going in, and so there's a fondness going in. Just like if they publish new Peanuts comics, I would read those, right?
Yeah.
Because I know everybody, I know the relationships, and I do want to see what happens when Charlie Brown gets a cell phone. Somebody update it, you know? So I say it's a read.
Yeah.
Likewise.
So the other thing about this too is even though it doesn't directly tie in, it does tell the story it tells its stories in a very similar way. So if you do like the way that this is told, you can jump into the video game and be like, oh, this is same universe, similar or same characters in the case of Rex. Yeah, and still get that same type of feel. So I personally this was sort of my counter to the Fortnite crossover in that
Thank goodness.
in that this is a good way to bridge the gap and bring it into a different medium, because a lot of times that's hard to do. So all right, well, I'm glad that you guys liked it. I enjoyed the series. I wasn't able to pick up all of them though. I was buying these as they were coming out, and the shop that I was getting them from, apparently I was the only person buying the book, and so they stopped getting them after like issue 8. So I never got the tail end of it. I'll have to see if I can maybe find it online or something. But yeah,
Or go all digital.
or go all digital. All right. Any final thoughts?
Nope,
All right.
not bad. And it does make a good counterpoint to that other book, which will remain nameless.
We'll forget about it from here on out.
Yes.
Russ, your first book.
Okay, my first book is Hellions. Number one, if you are already an X-Men fan, you know the Hellions as a team of another X team without the letter X in it somehow, right? Not Excalibur or X-Force, but it is another team. In fact, they were an evil team, if I remember correctly, that fought the New Mutants, sort of counter New Mutants. These Hellions, however, and I have an article in the works, I believe some superpowers are just evil. Some mutants, it doesn't matter whether you go to church or not or how you were raised, your power makes you evil. And I have some evidence to that. But this speaks to that conversation. These are broken, misfit people, right? They may or not be broken. They may be wholehearted. And there's a point in the book, which I'll get to after you guys talk, that sort of speaks to that. But what happens when you have a whole bunch of characters that don't fit in the world, but have the right to exist and have powers? What do you do with them? Do you put them down? Do you put them in a hole? Or do you give them a job? And Hellion speaks to that. And this is a new, there's 3 issues out currently, so you can get all 3. And I've read all 3. They're pretty good, I think. But what do you guys think?
Man, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so being the resident non an X-Men fan, I could speak from that perspective. This was an interesting story. I was actually emotionally invested in the exploits of the Hellions. There wasn't, see, I don't dislike X-Men for the dislike sake. Like, I like comics, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So Havoc, Orphan Maker, Nanny Watch, all of them, they're interesting. I want to know more about them, especially Empath, to grow up with that power and their take on it. This is a great character study of the individuals, and it makes me care. It's not just information for information's sake. This is the personality of this character, this is their mutant power, and the two are intertwined. How do you disconnect the two? This human, or this being, this entity, is a mutant, but also an alive person. So you can't separate the two. But this mutant power is a detriment to society. So therein lies the problem. I never heard of Scalp Hunter before. I've never heard of Nanny or Orphan Maker or Wild Child for that matter. So being introduced to these characters, knowing zilch about them, was a ride. You don't really have to in reading this. This is issue number 1. So they kind of give you a bit of backstory and hints at the personality of these characters, which I appreciate. But all in all, this story is great. It's good. It's definitely a buy. This would be my first X-Men book that I bought in probably a decade. So it's awesome.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, I bought this issue because it was a number 1 and it was part of this Dawn of X, the new X books. So I felt like I had to add it to my collection. There are too many damn X-Men books out there, man.
If your wants exceeds your funds, you got to find a way to get more funds.
It's an excellent problem to have, for sure.
Yes.
So I, like Emmanuel, did enjoy the story. I like the problem that it poses, right? Which is you have these mutants that are intrinsically linked to their abilities. This is the question that you posed, last week. Are those abilities inherently evil, or is there something about using those abilities when it's a part of you that is detrimental or in some way doesn't fit with the rest of society, right? So that I like, and I like that. I like how they pose that question, but I don't know that it's gonna continue in the series well, because you can only have it so many times before it gets old, right? So this might work for a few issues, but I don't know how it gets any better after that.
You doomsayer. Have you read the second and the third book yet?
I have not.
Okay.
Um,
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it can't be written.
so yeah, I mean it's possible. There's a few things here. Like I think Scott's a little out of character.
His brother, it's emotional. He's going to be out of character.
Yeah, I do like Havoc. He's always been one of my favorite characters. He's kind of interesting here because this is like old Havoc. It's not the '90s Havoc that we've come to know. This is very much feels like X-Men right before X Factor. That Havoc. So, yeah, I mean, there's some good things here. The art is amazing. I love the art in this book. The way that it tells the story is done really well.
Good dialogue, too.
Good dialogue. Sinister, I don't know how they're consistently writing him in all the different books, but he has the same persona in every single book, which is
yes.
which is
Everybody
crazy.
knows it. Yes,
Yeah,
it's good writing.
It's really good that way. This is definitely a buy for me. It's a number one, like added to your collection. It's a very different X book. It's a very different X team, and they're not necessarily like they're evil in the Krakoa universe even, but I don't know. I had this conversation with a coworker about ancient Rome and the gladiatorial battles, right? Like everybody that goes to Italy or goes to Rome goes to see the Colosseum because it's this, wonderment. But at the same time, this was a massive building built so that prisoners, essentially, the scourge of society, could kill each other. Like that was why.
For my amusement.
Exactly, for society's amusement. So there's a strange dichotomy there. We hold it in such high regard, but at the same time, it's...
Well, shouldn't people who do disservice to the community serve the community?
Yeah, and that's what this book talks about.
Yes.
So, yeah, definitely
So-
good pick.
Yes. So, Empath. Okay, so the first Hellions group, Empath was a member.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You know all the characters, right, Emmanuel? Not Emmanuel, Matthew. You know all these characters? You familiar with everybody?
I know most of the characters. I wouldn't say all.
You know Wild Child.
Yes.
Okay. So I think these are all characters. The only one that I didn't know as a personality, because he was always part of a group of villains, was the former Scalp Hunter, which, by the way, they don't call him that anymore, because that is offensive.
Yeah.
So they changed his name in the comics to his last name, which is Grayboat something. I don't remember exactly what it is. But he's not Scalp Hunter anymore, so get out your old... we're not doing that anymore. So then what should happen, since you don't believe this is going to be valuable after the first few books, what should happen to these characters? Should they be put down? What do you do?
Well,
Do you drug them up? And before you say that, let me speak to the point that was made in the book about every mutant has the right to exist with his mutant power.
no, absolutely. So that's a challenge. I don't know how they solve that. In Krakoan society, I don't know how it's solved.
But in our society, where we just put them down or imprison them,
Yeah, we lock them up and make them do menial labor. I mean, that's...
but if it's not really their fault, it's their, All right. So in other words, if you don't behave like our society, we're going to lock you up and put you in the gladiator pits.
Right.
All right. Even though you are not, okay. What if you're, okay. So mutant powers tend to manifest at puberty.
Right.
For some later, right? What if at puberty your mutant power manifests and you're a vampire? And you have to have human blood, not cat blood, not fucking,
Cow blood,
not cow blood, not that other weak stuff. You have to have, you know how teenagers can't fight against their emotions? They have to give in to them. What happens if you were 12 and your mutant vampire abilities activate? Should you be killed, locked up? Are you evil? You got to have blood. You can't let anybody stop you. What should you do for people like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting moral quandary. In the context of the comic books, I will say that Sinister may pose a solution in that he has the ability to genetically modify people.
So you gotta change me on a genetic level so that I fit your society.
I'm just saying that's one solution. I don't know that that's necessarily.
That's like saying if women don't behave, we gotta change them genetically so they behave. That's hella offensive, right?
Yeah, it is.
If black people don't behave, we gotta change their genetics so they behave. That's hella offensive, right? If mutants don't behave, we gotta change their genetics. It's just as appalling. But yet, right? And we think evil, because you brought this up, Emmanuel, not today, but when evil is really based on what society thinks is evil, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not evil like generically evil, it's what society thinks. So if your powers activate and you need to eat brains to live, are you evil? Should you choose to should you choose to die? If you're 12, you can't choose to die. You got to choose to go get brains. You be like, shh, your brains smell tasty. And you got to do something about that, right? The babysitter's the first to go, or a brother or sister or something like that, right? Is it their fault? They're not above the age. They're not adults.
I think
right?
the premise that teenagers can't, like, they have to go for their emotions, or
well, not that they can't, but it's stronger in their ear than it is in ours. Right? If you are 16 and a big booty woman walk by and rub up against you, you can't just go about your business. You were affected. Right? You have to stop for a minute and rein that shit in. Right? Now, if you need brains and a tasty brain walk up against you, right? And then you realize you're surrounded by brains and you can't go anywhere there are no brains. Right? And it's not like you have been meditating for years on how to deal with your brain addiction, as you may call it, or whatever. You are 13 years old. So, yes, kids do stupid stuff, right? Even when they know better. We all were, right? So there's some proof to the fact that we can't easily stop acting on our feelings. Because grown folks do it, right? Crimes of passion are all over the place. But for a teenager, it's even louder in your ear. So basically, anybody who doesn't fit, are you guys down? What's your solution? So if some kid is born a vampire, what do we do? In our universe, do we put them in a jail cell? Put a chain on them? Keep them chemically, put them to sleep in a coma forever until we find a cure? It's not the kid's fault. He's just born that way, right? What do we do? Like, how do we fix the fact that being black is a problem? What do we do?
I mean, this is a slippery slope. That you start talking about rehabilitation, but what does that really mean? How do you implement it?
Yes.
It's. I think it's interesting that they start off with empath.
And the explanation there is very good, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
So
This
continues on with the rest of the X books in that they have the like journal entries. So they talk about Manuel de la Roca, and here is empath and how his X gene has how it's been activated and all that. But the interesting thing is he can choose not to, or he could have chosen not to make these make the women fight.
He could have. Okay. First of all, are morals born or taught? Are you born with morals? Because kids will, let's talk with little kids who everything is about them, right?
Yeah.
Are kids born evil or are they born good? Are they born selfish or are they born good? Now think about this. What if using your power gives you an uplift? What if it feels good? What if it's positive feedback on your body and your life? What if people celebrate you for it and give you a superhero username and ID and costume and encourage you to use it? Where exactly did the evil part come from? Where did the good part come? Here's the thing. Are people evil whether they know better or not? Or are you only evil if you know better?
Yeah, I think it is,
Yeah.
and it's kind of alluded to. You're born selfish. You're born wanting to eat, drink, poop, like, and just have those functions, those basic needs met. It's not until you grow older to where you have a more or well-rounded view of society. It's not all internal;
Or,
it's
well,
external.
at least you've heard
There's
everyone else's view. Some people still go
yeah.
out there and murder, rape, rob, and pedophile
Well,
and all these other
I
things.
think morality is learned and empathy is learned. But if your mutant power is such to where no one has taught you that, because whatever action you do, they feel what you want them to feel. So there is no separation because that line has been blurred. You don't have that ability that hasn't been grown. That empathy hasn't been grown because you don't see anyone separate from yourself because you can create their own emotions. You can project whatever emotion you want them to feel onto them. So I think that is a great problem that they've shown here because that's
Yeah.
huge
And
emotional development.
in the original comic where Empath was created, he used his power on Firestar. That's where Firestar was invented to make her love him. Right? And she loved him. And she didn't think there's anything of it. So anyway, we could beat this like a dead horse for another 30 minutes. But I'm going to move on unless there's some other point you want to make.
I just want to reemphasize this was a great book.
Thank you.
I really like the emotional development and
Mhm.
the character study and these questions posed that might not have a solid answer.
So let me ask you, are you going to read the next issue?
Of course I am.
Okay. There you go. See, Matt, I did what you couldn't.
No, it was a
Expert to
progression.
get him- yeah.
It was a progression because I was
Mm-hmm.
slowly being weaned off of my anti-X.
Yeah.
Okay, my next book is Genius, #1. It looks like a merger between Top Cow and Image. It is written by, and Matt, you commented on this, Mark Bernardin, which we like from Fat Man Beyond. For me, a surprising thing I didn't see coming. This is the story of a girl in the hood who's a genius who finds a way to unite all the thugs and gangbangers into a united team to fight and defeat the police. He's like a super general. And before I move any further, I'll leave it to you. Tell me what you guys thought.
I'll go first if you want.
Okay.
This was a really big surprise. I did not quite expect it, but even the cover sort of throws you off guard because you're not really sure what to expect. But the artwork was phenomenal. I thought that it has a level of polish and a digital quality to it that is not something you see in a lot of books. Thought it was really well written. I was pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, but taken along with the story. And some of the best dialogue's actually the cop, the cop's narration towards the middle of the book, because it's sort of assumed that who they're going after is a male, right? And he's talking about him and he and using all these pronouns, and you're seeing this girl growing up in the panels. Was sort of really interesting. And then you get towards the end of his story of like who they're looking for, and they're profiling this person, and it's an image of her figuring out how chess works, and like, I think I like this game, type of thing. And it's just, everything about this is just really well done, and it does have some of the stereotypes you come to expect, but it subverts them in a way that is nice to see. So yeah, this overall was a phenomenal book. It's 5 issues total. I'm gonna finish reading it today after we get off. Yeah, just everything about it. Like going back to the art too, there are points where it has the street level stuff going on in the story and with the characters. It also has that show up of the art, but it's not overly done. It's not like this whole book is graffiti. There's little touches here and there. The way that some of the characters are stylized and whatnot sort of lends itself to that street art culture. This is, I think, it's a nice homage to sort of like Southern California, LA, in a way, but is also telling a very intelligent story. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Nice. The art. I've seen this type of art. Maybe I have to research the artist, but I've seen this art in some other book, and it irks me that it has not clicked who that was. So maybe in future episodes, if I just randomly just blurt out the artist's name and say, that's who it was, this is what I'm referencing. The art was great. It was really good. There's a lot of foreground, background play, which I appreciate. The color is amazing.
By the way,
the
artist is a black woman.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Her name is Afua, Afua Richardson.
Afua Richardson. I got to see her other work because I may have read something. It's very familiar. So
Black Panther, Hawkeye is what I'm seeing here so far.
Maybe a Black Panther book. It may be a Black Panther book. The story is great. What if there's a genius and this genius is in the hood, and this genius operates at a mental intellect far beyond, that's a genius, far beyond everyone else around her, and she has a desire to stop things or alter things. She sees chess, and then she kind of plays with that and uses that in her life. She sees all these gangs. This is an amazing story, done really, really well. This character, you can really see the motivations, you can see the inspiration, how chess plays a big role in her life. And she's essentially playing chess with the gangs and with her society, with the police as well. And it's not in a very negative way. It's just these are the cards that she's dealt, and she's playing the hand that she has, to mix metaphors, chess and cards. But you see what I mean. It's great. I really like this book. I do like Matt and read all other issues, but I won't do it all in one day. I want it to be a slow burn, so I'm going to kind of space it out over time. But I am very impressed with Genius. So 2 books, you knocked them out the park, Russ.
Okay, so I do want to say a couple things. I like the fact that they addressed that a bunch of alpha male thugs don't let a woman rule them. I liked how she had to work her way into the game using sex, using a whole bunch of other things in order to get herself to a power position. Because she is smaller than everybody, and she had to do it in a way that they would allow her to lead. But she planned all that out, right? And I like that her genius, it's really smart, but it's not necessarily a superpower, just really smart, right? Remember that movie, was it Fresh, where the kid would play chess, and he is a black kid that played chess, and he had to run some kind, I think Samuel L. Jackson was his father.
I think I've seen that.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you. Looks like I believe it's 1994. Yes, it's the name of the movie is Fresh. It came out in '94, and it's a story of a boy. You'll see in the trailer of his father teaching him to play chess, and he takes it to a whole nother level. It's a full movie. It's a crime thriller in which he manipulates everybody in the world around him using his intelligence, but not necessarily speaking to anyone like he's super smart. Just he thought it, and he plans his work and executes his plan. I think this is sort of a hood classic, honestly. So I'm kind of surprised you haven't seen it, but it was '94, and who knows how old you guys were in '94, so maybe that's an issue. But it's an easy to find. Giancarlo Esposito is in it. Samuel L. Jackson is in it. And I don't want to say the story is similar, but there are certainly portions of it. Uh, so watch that movie Fresh.
Yeah.
Came out in '94. And enjoy this book. By the way, this first issue is free online. There will be a link in the show notes, which is always are on cornercomics.net. Please feel free to take a look and read and share your feedback, everyone. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I did it again. Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's the rags to riches, but it's done in a
But she's still not rich, right? She's still
she's on her way up.
just
Yeah.
right. And then instead of this is the interesting part. Why I don't make it a superpower. She's not trying to save all black people
No.
or brown people. She's just trying to take down the police. Like, imagine if a true genius came to her and opened her mind to the whole world. Right? She's just, and this is the problem. You know, I say about black superheroes who stay in the hood,
Right.
right? Who don't leave. This is also that conversation written against this sort of genius background. Of course, the name of it is Genius. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Any other comments?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, Emmanuel, I believe it's on you.
All right. Well, my first issue is Bang, Dark Horse comic, issue number 3. This is kind of a spy, kind of a spy tech comic with the main protagonist, a woman as well. And my initial thoughts, let me just kind of put a tidbit here. I was confused until like midway through. And then I want to see what you guys thought.
Okay, we reviewed the first book of this. I brought this first book here. So we did Bang number 1 before as a team, right? And in that book, it shows where that black character came from, why he's there, and where his book of, here's a comic book about your life already, right? All that's handled in the first book. So the backstory is there. This has a little more trouble, issue number 3, standing alone. So think of it this way. This is sort of a Mission Impossible with some light superpower sprinkled in. This is my view, okay? In the first issue, we get the leader, what his motivation, how he's brought into it, right? And in the second issue, we introduce a new character that's going to be a member of the team. And the third issue, we introduce a new character that's going to be a member of the team. So there's going to be a team of these people that have light level superpower, just a little, right? And they're going to use that to fight some great evil. And they're all probably expendable. So this is the story of one of those characters, right? And then you get in the end, you get to see. So I feel like this doesn't stand as well without you having read the first issue, which I do suggest you read. Bang is a great series. But if you don't have the background, and I don't want to spoil it, but I guess since we talked about it, basically some guy who's a spy and who's great at his job finds out somehow he's been around for, I don't know, 40, 50 years fighting, but he shouldn't be. He should be old and he's not. And then there's something to that. And then he fights what he thinks has been told is the evil. And when he catches the guy shows him a comic book of his adventures. Already everything that's happened today. Right?
Now I remember the story, yes.
Right? And I thought this was great because it had sci-fi and it had spy and all those things, right? And then, so now, cut to the second issue, now we have a new character. The second issue is interesting too. It's a guy who's sort of a spy, but people send him 3 vials. One for additional strength, one for additional intelligence, and one for a third thing. If he takes all 3, he gets sick. So he's like, and they keep sending it to him in a package. He doesn't know who sends it, right? So like you see him on a train and they're terrorists, right? And he says, and he tries not to take them, right? And they're inhalers. So he takes, when he's ready, he says, brute force isn't going to work. So I'm going to do the intelligence inhaler. And he takes it. And then all of a sudden he sees the things of a train. Second book is a little better than this one, right? But in theory, and it wears off. And he doesn't know, right? And he gets a note. He gets a suitcase. Here is your next installment of the vials. Keep doing the good work and we'll keep supplying you. But he's a regular guy, all right. He's spy skills, right? And so it's a sort of light level superpowers, right? Sort of Silver Age superpowers in a way. You know what I mean? Like Justice Society level. When you look at this new one, issue 3, and I'm sorry, I'm sort of harping on. See she is a person and she has some light level tech, which is not bad tech, right? Superpowers, maybe, but more kind of smart, but not super genius, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's light level superpowers that she uses, and she's smart and she planned. And so imagine a team of people like that. And then at the end of each one, he says, "Oh, by the way, everything you did today is in this comic. Here, read it. Even your thoughts." Right? This is my proof that you're supposed to be with me. Right? And so I like that. I didn't find her as interesting as the first two books, this character, but the whole story, I think number 1 and number 2 are better than number 3, but I like that every issue is about one individual of the upcoming team. This is a great book. Even Mark Millar on the cover really likes it. And Mark Millar has done, Kick-Ass and a lot of other things, right? But this guy, Matt Kent, I'm still now going back and looking for the stuff that he writes because I'm finding that I sort of like how he puts things together. So he has now moved into my top 10 writers, or at least top 10 to be investigated. This series, I think, is great. It's a must-buy. I don't know that this issue is by itself. I think it's a good read if you haven't gotten the first one or the first two. So I'm going to give it a read for that. But if you have the first 1 and 2, it's a buy because you got to follow this to the end.
Yeah,
Right?
so we did do the first issue, but none of it really ties in other than the very end.
Yes.
So this is just her story.
Yes.
To speak to her character, I like the fact that she's kind of like an old school Iron Man, and Mantis, and like that style of
nice.
character.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the suit that allows her to have.
She's got Kit from Knight Rider.
Well,
she's also got the spear from Mr. Terrific, right? Because she's got her super frisbee flying thing, right? So it takes from a lot of different geniuses in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I like the Knight Rider car. I like the spear that goes out and basically flies around and does its own thing to sort of help her,
Well,
and that they both have personalities.
I was gonna say boy, right? BOI.
Yeah.
Was it biological? What's the acronym stand for?
I don't know. I got to look it up now. It'll come to me.
Yeah. Anyway, boy, her AI is, I think, inhabits all of it, right? The frisbee thing that
He might do.
car, all of it. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Skeet.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like that too.
Yeah. So
And,
go ahead.
to interject, sorry about that, Matt. Bioengineered organic intelligence.
That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Bio means flesh.
Yeah, like it's actual neurons or something. That,
Like there's a brain, an actual physical brain in Kit.
yeah. So yeah, I was a little confused at first because she's like in a VR construct
Yeah.
with the villain, and then it takes a while for her to break out, and then it sort of puts it together. You realize what's going on. Yeah, overall, I thought it's definitely a read. It's kind of a cool little setup. I'm like you, Russ. It doesn't. I don't think it holds up as well as like the first issue. So I don't know if it's necessarily a buy, but I do like the character. I would like to see more of like what she does and how she's become this millionaire, but isn't really a millionaire. It's this persona that she's developed. Is that like another AI that she has? I don't know.
By the way, if you get a chance, go back and read number 2. I really like to see your take on it.
Okay.
We could, but anyway, I think this is a great series. I find the book also to be a read, not necessarily a buy, but the whole series is definitely a read at its worst. Something you should read.
Yeah. Do we know if this is going to culminate in a certain number of issues, or if it's just going to be ongoing?
I don't know.
All right. Well, while you're looking that up, Emmanuel, you want to introduce your last book, unless we have any final thoughts.
We'll find our thoughts here.
All right.
All right. Lion Forge is the name of the comic company, and we have now reached issue number 7. The title of the story is 7 Days. Some stuff happened. There was a alien intervention happening to this planet. People have powers, and this alien broadcasts worldwide to say, "You have 7 days to live. I'm ending the world as you know it." And people with powers and people without powers are fighting against it. What do you guys think?
Okay. Before I go there, I want to say that Bang already has a trade paperback that collects issues 1 through 5, even though 5 isn't out yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So there is an ending. So back to this. So this for me was a new universe, sort of like a milestone-ish kind of universe where everybody isn't white male.
Right.
And sort of has its own. I mean, there's still characters that are obviously Caucasian, but that's not that's not. Everyone doesn't look like it's a diverse group of people. There are there are children, there are autistic people, there are people who like the same gender. All of that is sort of a well-represented universe. Like Milestone brought black people into the mainstream in their universe. This universe brings sort of everybody who's currently having a challenge being included into this, right? So I like that part of it. Most of these characters have their own books, but this series lets you see everybody sort of in one tapestry together. And if you want to know more on any of them, you can go back and read their books. Most notable to me are Noble, who's basically the Phoenix version of it. Quincredible, whose one power is that he's indestructible.
Yeah.
He's not strong, he's not fast, but you can't break him. And so there's I felt like, so a lot of these books where you get crisis books, where you have to have everybody in together, you don't give a lot of shine to the right people. A lot of times the art falls off. I felt like this book had a good ending that gave an ending to all of the main characters. It did them service. And that to me is a great thing that they can do that. You find Crisis on Infinite Earths and you get a whole bunch of people who just had 5 panels or who only were in the back of 3, right? Everybody here had a part to play and had a plot. And so this did that well. That being said, I feel like it's a read. I can't say it's a buy. It's like a video game that you know it's going to take you 50 hours to complete. You got to prepare yourself. You know what I mean? It's not like something you can go in casually. This is a deep, thick story, a world that is vibrant and rich with characters. And if you're not down for that, if you need a quick read, this isn't it. I think the series as a trade paperback, however, is a buy. This issue, I think, is a read. Those are my thoughts. Matt?
Yeah, I would say it's a buy if you haven't been following it, because you can still go back. I mean, this, for everything that it does right, it's still sort of suffers from the same superhero thing, which is, it's all going to work out. They're all going to, it's more about the fun ride that you have. But the cool thing about this issue number 7 is it reintroduces a lot of the characters. So it's a good jumping off point too. One of the things that you've mentioned, Russ, in previous episodes is that all these characters have their own books. They have their own universes. So even if you pick up issue 7, it's the end of this huge climactic, battle, right? This similar to like Avengers Endgame or something. It's the end of something, but it's also they sound off and you get, oh, here's this character, here's my name, here's a little bit about me and who I am, and you can still jump off from issue 7 and just go read
I can
about
see that.
your favorite characters. So yeah, I mean, for that it's a buy. I think this is probably going to be a trade that I pick up just because I didn't buy the individual issues as they were coming out. But I do like that this is the perfect example of diversity not getting in the way. It's not forced. It's not. These characters are just who they are, and it doesn't.
But they're not being preachy about it.
Well, it's not necessarily.
So the
being-
comic book isn't preaching it. It's just it's there. Like I'm a character. I happen to be a woman, but I don't need to tell you about it. You can see all that while I kick ass.
Yeah, exactly. Right. These are just parts of who these characters are. It's not.
Mhm.
Like one of the books that I brought on was Guardians of the Galaxy #1, the most recent run. They have Marvel Boy, who is clearly, like is this Gen Z super stereotype. It's forced in a way, I think, to be funny, but if they weren't being funny, like the New Mutants that everybody gave Marvel crap for. It feels forced in a way. This is diversity done right. This is all these characters are just who they are, and you
Right.
don't have to. You could just be along for the ride and just enjoy who the characters are.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it. The art I thought was phenomenal. It's been good through the entire series. You've got the big bad at the end and the fight with him. It delivers on a lot of different levels.
Right. And it's not phoned in. At the last minute, sometimes in these crisis books, everything is sort of phoned in. Everything falls in the right place. There's, everything is, at the last minute, Hail Mary. It's, it's forced. This ending isn't forced either. This ending sort of progresses and everyone does their part.
Yeah.
And it's not, we got to squeeze all this in the last minute. Like they planned the book out well so that everything gets to be said and not feel like we had to run past it.
Yeah, and the Earth is still fucked up at the end. So,
yeah, but more to be told in their individual books.
Yeah, like how does this all get rebuilt? So, yeah, it was good book, good pick, Emmanuel. It's a buy for me.
Good pick.
Thank you.
All right, that's all 6 issues. We didn't really have much in the roundtable at the end, but Russ, you wanted to bring up what's going on with Comixology right now?
Yeah, so Comixology is giving away every Black Panther book, every Black Panther issue for free. I don't know how long. I don't know if it's going to last past this weekend. So if you're watching us live, go and click. Now, you can't get trade paperbacks. You have to click buy for each issue. And it may take you some time because Comixology will not let you hit buy to more than a certain amount of issues at a time. But get all these books. We're talking old runs. We're talking sort of Jack Kirby looking runs. We're talking a run where Storm got married. That's in there. The most current things, Ages of Wakanda, which just still, the latest issue just recently came out. All of that is included. So go and click and get all those books, and then let's all have a Black Panther readathon and come back and talk about it. Yes, that's why I have my boy over here, just to remind you and to remind me also to go get your free Chadwick Boseman, again, great talent, just really made that work and did a lot of other things in that respect. But Black Panther was a worldwide phenomenon that he was a major player in. And you should continue that path. You want more Black Panther, don't wait for the next movie. Get those comic books and read them and let everybody know how much you love them.
Yeah, we're recording this on September 6th of 2020. So depending on when you listen to this, go ahead and check it out. You can find the show notes on cornercomics.net. And this is episode 39. All right, gentlemen. Another episode in the bag. We did it.
Yes,
We're
sir.
approaching episode 50 faster than you could say 50.
No worries. I'm trying to get buys from both of you guys every month, so I have a goal.
All right. And on that note, we're out.
Almost an X-Men.
Almost. All right. Now, what if your power is secretion? Like you could secrete any form of liquid type thing. And you could secrete, I could have on my fingertip. There actually is a person with that power, by the way, and she's a mutant. where she could secrete something that make you feel sleepy, that put you out, that make you sick, any whatever she wanted to secrete from you. And her job, she's a massage therapist. You walk away from her massages and she makes you feel more amazing than it is possible to feel from any massage person. And she makes a lot of money for that and is worth the money. Imagine if that was your power. Secretion man.
What if it was only super glue?
Ah, I like it. The question is, if you use it, can you break it? Like I could climb walls if I had super glue fingertips, but what happens if I can't get my hands off?
Right.
Right? That's the real question.